Getting beat up by 9 guys at Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame.
Welcome to the Heel to the Face podcast.
And this right here,
with your hosts, Jarod Wicks, Brandon Icebreaker Clements, and Paul Boy Green Esden.
It doesn't matter what your name is. And that's the bottom line. For Stone Cold
I have received an email.
Don't forget to email the show at heeltotheface@hotmail.com.
Best there is, the best there was, or the best there ever will be.
Brett screwed Brett because it's what's best for business.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. The champ is here. Oh yeah, new day rock. And if you're not down with that, we got you. Oh yeah.
Tweet us using the handle @HeelToTheFace.
Woo! Let's get ready to suck it!
The bell is rung, so let's step in the ring with your hosts, Paul, Brandon, and Jarod.
I might as well tighten me up with my buddy from Syracuse.
It is the third week of August 2017, and the Heel to the Face podcast is on the air. You are listening to us live on Sports War Radio, Rat Pack Radio, and on iTunes. We are joined this week, as always, with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Paul Boy Green Esden, you can find him on Twitter at BoyGreen25, and myself, Jarod Wicks. We took a hiatus last week, a week off to get us ready for Summerslam this Sunday night on the WWE Network, the WrestleMania of the summer. WWE pumps it up that way. The 2-hour pregame, the 4-hour event. I don't exactly know how I'm going to be excited to watch this thing for 4 hours, because while it is the SummerSlam or the WrestleMania of the summer, it is still not really WrestleMania to me. But either way, it is one of the bigger pay-per-views, and I hope it lives up to the hype as we roll out this week's past Raw and SmackDown, the go-home shows. For the first time in a while, they were the go-home shows for both shows. This is the first dual-branded pay-per-view since WrestleMania, which is kind of odd to say because that was 6 months ago, but both brands on the show this Sunday night. And Brandon, what was your takeaways from Monday Night Raw? I obviously thought SmackDown was still the better show, as it has been, regardless of if it's a go-home episode or not. Your takeaways from Raw leading up to the big Fatal 4-Way match this Sunday.
I have to say, I do disagree on one front. Raw was better, in my opinion. I have to say, Dean Ambrose to Seth Rollins, I thought that segment was really good. I mean, we'll kind of tease it a little bit later on, but I think something's going to happen in that tag team championship match. But I thought that was a great way to kick off the show. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I watched SmackDown, and it was like a typical go home show before the pay-per-view. I didn't really enjoy the match. I mean, we had Rusev and Chad Gable, but it was a double count out and all that stuff. I mean, I didn't think it was that great of a thing. I mean, I think the highlight of that was probably either, I would have to say, the AJ Styles apology or the fashion. What are they? Fashion Peaks now. I think that's my favorite part.
That was the name of this week's episode.
I thought that was good this week. I mean, I think that's been the most entertaining thing on SmackDown the last few weeks. But it was between that and AJ Styles' apology. I thought they got a couple digs in, and then KO knocked Shane McMahon down after AJ Styles knocked him down a little bit. It was a very I wasn't happy with SmackDown, to be honest with you.
It was strange on Raw to see Akira Tozawa become the new Cruiserweight champion. We've seen Neville hold this belt for so long, and finally the belt changed hands, and it wasn't on a pay-per-view, and it wasn't on 205 Live, the Cruiserweight show. It was on Raw.
Yeah, that was odd. Here's my thing, and I mean, I'll harp on this like we did before. I like Tozawa. I like this whole Titus brand thing. I think that's cool. But why would you put it on him and let Austin Aries walk, essentially? What the hell is that? I'm nothing against Tozawa. I think he's a hell of a competitor. I think he's got a cool gimmick. I think this Titus brand thing is cool. But why not put on Austin Aries before that? That's just me. I'm a little confused. Where do you guys stand on that?
Paul, where do you stand?
Austin Aries shoulda, coulda, woulda been the guy. I was cool with writing the King of the Cruiserweights as long and as far as you wanted to, and it has lasted a long time, so maybe he was due for a change to keep things interesting. As Jarod says every week, cruiserweight, the whole genesis, the whole point of the cruiserweight show is to chase a championship that realistically only two people are in the conversation. And really, it's not even two people, it's just been one. It's just been Neville dominating everybody. But what we have to talk about is the absolute blasphemy on SmackDown Live to end the show. What in the name of Money in the Bank Tuesday on a unbelievable. I couldn't believe, maybe you guys have different opinions on this, but I just could not believe that Baron Corbin cashes it in and then it goes to absolute crap.
It was stupid.
The entire Money in the Bank, there was an entire pay-per-view for Money in the Bank, and it all gets wasted.
It was stupid, Paul. It was stupid. Why the hell would you have him not only cash it in now, but he loses in an embarrassing fashion, I might add. I mean, yes, we had the John Cena setting him up, oh, hey, you got rolled up by Jinder. That was stupid. I was so... that ticked me right off, Paul.
Brandon, I will say this. You son of a bastard. I didn't watch it live, so all of a sudden I checked my phone and I just saw Money in the Bank. And I'm like, what in the name of... So, this gave me a different perspective when I was watching it, which I thought was interesting. Leading up to it, I'm like, so Baron Corbin cashes it in, and all of a sudden now John Cena will have an opportunity. If they keep the matches in place, he'll still have an opportunity to get the most world championships in history. So it's like, oh, that's kind of an interesting twist if that's what they're going to do with it, and then keep the Jinder Mahal-Shinsuke Nakamura match, which would have been weird because I don't think that's how it would have went. But that's what I was thinking when I was watching it live, and I thought that maybe that could have been an interesting twist.
See, I loved it, and I loved it because I wasn't expecting it. On these go-home episodes of Raw and SmackDown, they don't ever pull anything out of the hat, and they pulled something out of the hat. I mean, it would have been very interesting if he won the belt because obviously we have these matches set up for this huge pay-per-view of SummerSlam. So just a few days prior, we would have wondered what was going on with all these main events. But either way, it was very interesting, and I think it makes this John Cena-Baron Corbin match much more interesting to me than it was before.
I guess you're right on that point, but why the hell would you waste the cash in though? Like if you're gonna make the Money in the Bank cash in so stupid. No offense to Carmella, I'd rather have her just lose it to to Naomi or Natalya, whoever comes out after the pay-per-view. I wouldn't mind seeing her do it because that whole gimmick's kind of annoying with Ellsworth anyways. But Baron Corbin of all people, I mean, yes, the awe factor, the shock factor, that was cool. And yes, I do understand that it sets up a better storyline for the John Cena thing. But the thing is, why would you? He's one of your marquee talents, up-and-coming talents, I should say. He's going to be a future champion.
I'm a little split on this because I get what you're saying because now when someone wins the Money in the Bank, we always think it's a guaranteed championship. Like no matter what, wherever they cash it, we know that guy's going to end up being champion. And then when you have situations like this, it kind of opens the door like, hey, nothing's guaranteed. Anything can happen. So I guess there is that surprise factor. And yes, I agree. Obviously, it increases the juicy storyline for SummerSlam, which is something better. But I always wanted... Or excuse me, I just think that Corbin, I just saw him as champion. As soon as he won it, I already saw the belt around his waist, and I liked the vision of that. And now that has been stripped away, at least for the present time.
And I'm fine with that. And that kind of would lead us to our Twitter question of the week later on. But, I just, the whole idea of Money in the Bank, that's supposed to be this sporadic, this kind of, you never know when they're going to cash it in. So the fact that they did this week, out of nowhere, I thought it was great. And more importantly, I thought it gave a lot of, dignity and credibility to Jinder Mahal because he got the pin. He didn't use any tactics. He got the pin, and I understand it was a quick roll-up pin, but he got the pin against somebody who tried to cash in their Money in the Bank on him, and that's something that even the John Cenas and the Rocks and all these people in the past, these great champions, haven't been able to do if they're caught off guard. And Jinder Mahal got some credibility this week because he not just, defended his title in the past, but then he was able to defend it against somebody who, pulled this surprise out of the hat. And you would think, that's how he's going to lose it, because of the fact that he needs all these tactics and all this underhand scheming to defend the belt, but hey, he's still the champion. Didn't even see the championship match coming, and now he's going in, kind of with that momentum to SummerSlam as champion.
Well, I do want to jump in here and say this, that a part of it that I was disappointed with is, for me, part of the Money in the Bank, the magic to Money in the Bank, is when you're not expecting it, that all of a sudden you hear that person's music hits, and you're like, oh, my God. In this situation, there's no music hitting. He was pinning, and then Baron Corbin came out of nowhere and just jumped in. I thought there was still the surprise factor from that standpoint, but not quite the same shock factor that I like when you're hearing the intro when you're not expecting it.
Yeah, I think it lost its luster in that situation. I don't think it was. I didn't like it that way. I like it as Paul says. You have a match, and let's say Shinsuke wins the match. We'll talk about
and then
SummerSlam
he comes out
later.
of SummerSlam,
and you hear Baron Corbin's new music come out, and you're like, oh shoot, here he comes. He's taking that championship. Something like that. That's what Money in the Bank's all about.
That's a little predictable that they've done that before. This is something they've never really done before.
It's not predictable in the sense of where and when. If it was on a random SmackDown or Raw, the predictability's not there. If it happened on a SummerSlam, we can see that more predictable, so to speak. So I get it from a storyline perspective, but I think how they did it this time, I think they dropped the ball. They should maybe done it to Carmella that way, to be honest with you.
And Jarod,
yes.
To your point, we'll wrap this thing up so we're not beating around the same dead bush here, but the only thing that I think that, yes, it's the same every year and it's unpredictable when it's something different, I think that there's been this expectation level set for Money in the Banks. Like, it's not that I think it's repetitive, the music hits, it gets cashed in. I still think there's the surprise factor there. You don't know the when and the where, and I just feel like that's something, it's almost like a tradition that doesn't really have to be messed with. I think that's something that fans appreciate outside of Jarod, apparently, who needs everything mixed up.
I like to see things out of the order. Now, my question is kind of going back in history a little bit. What would be your opinion of a WrestleMania cash-in like we saw with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31? Are you in favor or against something like that?
I think that's cool because of the WrestleMania moment, but at the same time, it's almost like throwing water in the ocean. What I mean by that is WrestleMania is already as spectacular as it is. The WrestleMania where Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank, it's not like I think that WrestleMania needed that extra moment. It was cool to see it happen on the biggest stage, and I thought that was awesome. And the moment and everything, especially the way it was cashed in on Roman Reigns, I think that's fantastic. But I don't know if it was completely necessary for me to be at a WrestleMania. But to me, it doesn't matter. I don't discriminate. They can cash it in anywhere as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, my opinion is I didn't really like it so much at WrestleMania because of the fact that it's such a big event with these big matches that you kind of want untainted. You want these main event matches that they hype up for 2 months to go on, and you don't want them to end with the SmackDown finishes of somebody, a member of a posse coming out and interfering.
To me, it's too predictable to do it at WrestleMania. I'm one of those where maybe not so much at a pay-per-view, but maybe at a Raw or SmackDown. It gives that show a little extra boost that week. I think that's the way it should be done. I don't think it should be to me, in my opinion, I think it's too predictable to do it at one of the marquee pay-per-views. That's just me.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's too predictable because it's kind of like the first time.
I mean, it's the first thing I think of.
They did that.
When a Money in the Bank, when you know somebody has the briefcase, in the back of my mind, if it's at a pay-per-view, I'm like, all right, we have a title match. If, whoever wins this, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, maybe Baron Corbin's going to be coming out and cashing in. To me, I get the shock and awe factor, but I think they did it the wrong way. But they're still building the Jinder Mahal thing, and I think we'll touch on that more on the SummerSlam part because we've talked. I mean, you know me, I've talked Jinder Mahal plenty of times in the last few weeks. But
did anyone see someone have that shirt in the audience? Don't hinder with Jinder.
I did not.
No, I didn't.
Would
see
anyone
that.
else purchase this shirt?
I'm not.
Don't enter the Jinder.
I'm not really on the bandwagon to purchase anything Jinder Mahal related at this time. I'm not fully against purchasing any Jinder Mahal related in the future. I just think it's a little too early to be. I'm not a huge Jinder Mahal fan yet.
I will say this:
there. I'm getting higher, but
him having the championship has really, I think it's helped his career out though. Now, I mean, obviously having the championship, yes, but I think as he's been able to showcase his skills. Where before, when he was back in the day with like 3MB, it was like, haha, Jinder Mahal, they're jobbers. You know what I mean? Now, as a champion, not only, yes, he has the title, and that already gives him the credibility anyways, but he gets to put on matches with really good competitors like the John Cenas, the Randy Ortons. And I think since his first promo, he has gotten much better on the promo. I won't say he's the best promo cutter in the business, but I think from the first time he cut his first promo as, building himself up as a champion to now, I think his promos have gotten a lot better. I think he's a more well-rounded talent at this point.
Now,